Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We prepared a brief press statement, which I will read, and it will form the basis of our interaction with you this afternoon. So I am going to read this statement in English. It has been summarized by my colleague in actually stroke Luo. Press statement entitled Change in Leadership and Restructuring of K-Kwaro, actually. Number one, in a meeting of the Council of Rwodi, actually held on 20th June 2023, Rwodi David Onen Acana II was removed as Lawi Rwodi actually, together with his deputy, Rwodi Martin Otinga Atuka Otoyai II. Number two, both Rwodi Acana and his deputy, Rwodi Otinga, have been in their respective positions since the inception of K-Kwaro in the year 2000. Number three, reacting to scandalous conduct of Rwodi David Onen Acana, to a plethora of issues related to integrity, failure to discharge his fiduciary responsibilities, and mismanagement of affairs at K-Kwaro Choli. This unprecedented and drastic action was taken in the best interests of K-Kwaro Choli and the Acholi community as a whole. Number four, the election of the leadership of K-Kwaro Acholi is entirely within the mandate of Rwodi Acholi and is exercised very judiciously. Who or what is K-Kwaro Acholi? K-Kwaro Acholi is the umbrella body established in the late 1990s to bring all the Acholi traditional entities together, chiefdoms that is. This council of Rwodi, known as K-Kwaro Acholi, is headed by Lawi Rwodi. He is known and recognized as the custodian of Acholi culture among national and international stakeholders. Acholi Traditional and Cultural Authority and the attendant chiefdom social order, which has been in existence from around the 16th century, has always been the foundation of governance of Acholi society. This fact in our times today has been recognized by the 1995 Constitution under Article 246, and this very article confers formal legitimacy to the institution. Where is customary authority derived from? Customary authority, normally in any social space, is very much shaped by everyday practices and events. And these practices include provision of public services and public goods. Coming to K-Kwaro Acholi in particular, this legitimacy and public authority in recent times is derived from tradition and culture, and the access by Rwodi to their communities and the identity of Rwodi to the grassroots. That's the authority from which the Rwodi derived their mandate. In the recent historical context of our society, actual society, these public goods were informed by the dynamics of the events of the day, which was the LRA war, Lord's Resistance Army War, Civil War, that shook this country and its aftermath. The cultural leaders stepped forward in the aftermath of the war, and the public goods and services they provided included and still includes even today transitional justice, protection, of the environment, reintegrating, as it was at the time, those who were returning back home from war, and peace negotiations which led to the end of the war. And today they're engaged quite a lot in mediating land conflicts. However, in true tradition, the role of Rwodi has been evolving, and today embraces development brokerage, and Rwodi are very much considered as development agents. But at the time of its inception, these were the very explicit aims of the organization, of the institution rather. A, maintaining the tradition and the culture which enhances the dignity and the well-being of Acholi people. B, handling conflicts and disputes within the Acholi community and engaging in reconciliation as and when the need arises with other neighboring communities to foster harmony in accordance with the customs, norms, traditions prevailing which do not contravene the Constitution. C, promoting development and enrichment in the character of all Acholi community in particular, and by implication Uganda at large. Sadly, the leadership we're talking about, who are given this mandate, have not fulfilled these functions for which they were elected to office. Their term of office has been mired in a number of misdeeds, which include some of the following. And I have here, for your benefit, highlighted 13 of them. This is by no means the entire catalog of what we consider misdeeds, which are both classified as commissions and omissions. Number one, failure by the leadership to produce a governance documents for Kwarachori, that is, failure to produce a constitution, despite several resolutions passed by the Council of Chiefs. The absence of a constitution made it easy for Lawi not to be accountable to the institution itself, not accountable to Rwodi, and not accountable to actually community, as required today by best management practices. The converse of this, lack of the constitution, that the governance document, has led to nepotism and decisions, management decisions being made arbitrarily. So number one is about lack of the constitution. Okay, we don't have one. The institution has itself been responsible, number two that is, has been responsible of misappropriation of money provided in the form of grants, aids, and donations. The most significant of which was the Democratic Facility Fund, provided around about the year 2013 and 2014. These were funds meant to carry out activities related to return from the IDP camps. This was the subject of a forensic audit the outcome of which led to the withdrawal of all development assistance from key stakeholders. To this day, number three, in October last year, His Excellency, the Head of State, put forward 200 million shillings for activities to set up peace committees and continuation dialogues at the grassroots levels in the troubled Upper region, which is the home of Madi and actually people we all know the history of Afar. It remains a troubled area of our community to this day. Two things to say about this. The fact of the provision of these funds for really a vital activity was not disclosed to these chiefs here, who are meant to be the ones spearheading this activity. Not only was this not disclosed, but there are no records that these activities were actually carried out. So what? But we live in hope. One day, probably in the near future, this will be carried out. However, the people of Afar deserve more than this. They live with daily insecurity. And they badly need intervention for peace. Number 4, our Rwodi has been misrepresenting his position as quotes, king of Acana. This position doesn't exist in the hierarchy of Acana. There is no history or culture of quotes, king in our setup. What does this mean? This misrepresentation. It demeans and assigns a lesser status to other Rwodi. For the sake of giving an insight into the state of Rwodi, we are independent and autonomous, and we are all of equal status. What we have done by the arrangement of Acana is to elect a chairperson, a coordinating responsibility, and a spokesperson. Full stop. This is not a position where the holder of the office exercises executive function. But the impression given out there is that this is a boss. Not at all. "20 years ago, at the time of returning from the IDPs, as part of the reconstruction and development of northern Uganda from the ruins and the impact of the NRA war, Rwodi actually were encouraged to lead their communities out of the IDP camps. And one of the tools used was that they should return. And a provision was made to build houses for chiefs so that the communities will follow them to where they came from originally. This program of building chiefs houses filed under PRDP is a very welcome project. However, this process was grossly mismanaged in several ways. One, the design of the houses as originally conceived were changed. And what was provided was of lesser value and extremely poor workmanship. Today, if you visit these houses, they are in dilapidated states. Many of them pose serious health hazards just 10 years down the line. And quite a number of chiefs have abandoned these houses and prefer the attached structures. Number 8, there's been considerable breach of protocol and this goes to what I mentioned earlier. You, as a chief, we normally welcome chiefs in our areas, other chiefs, for various reasons. But you do it with their knowledge, particularly if you're not on a private visit, but on some issues related to affairs of the chieftain. This protocol has been violated blatantly and with impunity by Lawi Rwodi. Number 9, we all value the little that is now left of our customary land. And we are doing everything possible to manage this resource for the benefit of the past, the present, and for posterity. This is the song almost every weekend on radio talk shows. Don't sell customary land. However, the leadership of K culture has been caught everywhere, engaged in grabbing and selling community land for private gain. We now come to what triggered and put us where we are today. This piece of land, known as plot 5 and 5A airfield, Road, just a bare 200 meters from here. This was a donation to K. Kwaro about a decade ago to form the asset base for the institution to be developed to generate income and provide working space for K. Kwaro's activities. This is what triggered the crisis we are in today. There was a brazen attempt by the person of Rwodi to sell this land, which he has been pronouncing as his personal property. Whereas it is not. And when news of this reached Rwodi, a series of actions which he has just explained took place, culminating into where we are. Lastly, we are not sure, as our representative and spokesperson, that our Rwodi advocates for entitlements and benefits which are due to Rwodi from various stakeholders. We are regarded as development partners. We work very closely at the grassroots level, particularly with area local governments. And we know that in carrying out these tasks together with these stakeholders, there are some provisions for Rwodi. We don't know if this matters for the provisions have been advocated for. Now, therefore, I read, whereas the office of Rwodi actually was created to promote and preserve actually heritage by providing good leadership to K. Kwaro actually, whereas the position of Rwodi is an elected position from among legitimate Rwodi actually, whereas the person of the Rwodi Onen Acana II has failed to discharge its fiduciary duties with integrity in serving the interests of Rwodi actually, K. Kwaro actually, institution, and actually in general. Therefore, Rwodi actually resolved in a meeting of the Council of Rwodi on the 20th of June 2023 as follows. 1. The entire leadership and management of K. Kwaro actually under Rwodi Onen Acana II and his deputy, Lord Martin Otinga Otoyai II, ceased to hold offices or ceased to carry out duties of their respective offices as the Rwodi and Deputy Rwodi with immediate effect. 2. David Onen Acana should give an account and an inventory of assets of Kekwaro that have accrued to this body. He should give this account within the period of 14 days. We have also resolved and put in place an interim leadership to be chaired by Lord Richard Santo Apere of Attack, to run the affairs of Kekwaracholi together with the Prime Minister's office. In the interim period, what they'll be doing is restructuring, developing, and presenting for approval a constitution for the first time for Kekwaracholi. Lord Santo Apere will be deputized in this by Lord Onen of the Bongo Amida. He will also be assisted by Lord Colin, together with myself, Lord Lugai, Lord Ojok Agina, in what we have constituted as an interim committee. This interim committee has 3 months to reorganize and restructure the organization that is Kekwaracholi. In the event this work is not complete and the time is not sufficient, the period for them to undertake this task will be extended by a further 3 months. This is our press statement. And now I turn back to you. Thank you.